Those days. I remember those days.
Hello, vinyl community. This is Tommy, and welcome to another musical adventure. And this adventure is the Vinyl Tag 2023. I hope that all of you watching had a fantastic holiday and a great new year. We're into 2023. Let's see what happens. These videos are so much fun, and this one that I'm doing is the one that was started by Rob Walker. I'm going to put a link to his channel down in my description here, so definitely check his channel out. What I love about these vinyl tags is that, to me, they're great sort of introduction videos. If you've never seen my channel before, I hope after watching my vinyl tag, you get to know me a little better, and hopefully you'll subscribe to the channel. Would love to have you do that. I try to reply to all my comments, so if you comment down below, let me know. I'll see it, and then I'll respond. I look forward to talking with you and meeting new people. And I hope that everyone has a fantastic 2023. Like I said, this is Rob Walker's Vinyl Tag 2023. We do this every year in the vinyl community. It's always a lot of fun. So thanks, Rob, for kicking this off. And I've watched a couple of your videos and have enjoyed it. Like I said, a lot of what I love about these videos, this is a great way to kind of get to know each VC member a little more personally, and I tried to tailor my answers in that regard. But without further ado, let's get started with the Vinyl Tag 2023. The first question was favorite new release of 2022, and mine is, I don't know how you count it. It's a double, but it's Jack White. They both came out last year. The first one is Fear of the Dawn, and then the second was Entering Heaven Alive. Two separate releases. Maybe I'm cheating a little bit. My favorite of the two, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are preferring Entering Heaven Alive because it's more of an acoustic sort of album. But I really, really do like Fear of the Dawn. Both of them were by Jack White. Is it a double? I don't know. They were released. One was, I think, April. The other was later in the summer, June or July. And so it's two separate albums, perhaps, so maybe I'm cheating a little bit, but they are my favorite release of 2022. Now, the next question was last band or artist that I saw live. If you watched my contest entry for Sam St. John, you know the answer to this because that was one of his questions for his contest entry, but it was Jimmy Webb, and this was an album I picked up recently, El Mirage, produced by George Martin. Fantastic show. It was just him and a piano, and really, really, really good concert. The third question is, the first album was the best album. This is a band whose debut album is the only album I really acknowledge by them. It's Boston, the self-titled album. This album, I know it's overplayed. Everybody's heard these songs 5 million times. This album to me defines the genre of classic rock, and particularly classic rock radio. This is the album, but oh my goodness, it sounds phenomenal. It holds up really well. And I know most people are going to say, yeah, they did other albums, they did other music, but nothing came close to this for me. The fourth question is a musical hat trick. Now, I wasn't going to dig out my cassettes, but the idea is to show an album that you own in multiple formats. Well, for me, it's Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, one of my all-time favorite albums. That's the original mono, and I'm not even going to try to go through all of them. This is the stereo mono anniversary edition, which I have on vinyl. The other way I have it is CD. This is the DGC, or DCC rather, gold disc. Probably one of the better sounding versions of the album. I also have the Velvet 40th anniversary edition. And so to pull out a musical hat trick to make a third version, the DVD audio. Now that's one that probably not a whole lot of you guys are going to show, but this is one that you play on your DVD player, and it's a multi-channel surround sound mix of the album. So I kind of went a little different. I didn't go with a cassette or an 8-track. I decided to do the DVD audio. The next question is album that starts and ends with the same letter, the album title. It begins and ends with the same letter. And again, I love these videos because it's sort of a kind of get to know you kind of thing. And so I tried to, in answering all my questions, to show artists that I really appreciate. So all of these artists are people that I enjoy. And hopefully at the end of the video, you'll kind of get a sense of my musical taste. But Bob Dylan, Empire Burlesque. This was a mid-'80s album from Bob. And it's not very good. It's not a great album. It's not considered a high-end sort of Bob Dylan album. But I am a huge Bob Dylan fan, and Empire Burlesque does begin and end with the letter E. So Empire Burlesque by Bob Dylan. The next question was an artist born the same year as me. Now again, Jack White was born the same year as me, 1975, but I went with somebody a little different because we've already seen Jack, and I don't like to repeat myself in these things. So I'm going with an artist that I have on CD. I do not have this on vinyl. I would love to have this on vinyl. Sean Lennon, son of John Lennon. Sean Lennon, this is his album, Friendly Fire. And I absolutely love this album. It's a really cool record. But Sean Lennon was born the same year as me. And so this is his album, Friendly Fire. And there you go. The next question was the most listened to album in 2022 for me. And so this is a repeat. But probably Fear of the Dawn. I really, really like this record. Again, you know, best release, naturally probably the most listened to album. I've listened to this quite a bit, and maybe the only reason this edges it out, Entering Heaven Alive, is probably because it came out earlier in the year. So yes, Fear of the Dawn by Jack White is my most listened to album of 2022. This next question is the most listened to artist of 2022. Now, I don't do streaming music or a lot of that, so it's hard for me to gauge who I've listened to more. So I'm taking a guess at this, but I'm going to say John Coltrane. This is the A Love Supreme, the Verve Acoustic Sound Series release, and quite a few of these came out this past year, and so I've bought quite a few of these. As a matter of fact, I've bought all of them. If it's got John Coltrane's name on it, I have it. And so I'm guessing this is probably my most listened to just because I've listened to John Coltrane a lot this past year. And he's also one of my favorite artists, and this is one of my most favorite albums. But yeah, John Coltrane, most listened to artist. That's a guess. And so don't hold me to that. An Australian artist or band, a band or artist from Australia. I went with Ben Lee. Does anyone know Ben Lee? Ben Lee from the mid-'90s. He was sort of an indie rock sensation. This is his album, Grandpa Wood, produced by Brad Wood. And really a big fan of Ben Lee, particularly his earlier stuff. He was a bit of a musical wonder. He was in the band Noise Addict, another Australian band, when he was a kid. This album, I think he was 16 when he made it. Just a pop prodigy. But Grandpa Wood is a great album, but Ben Lee was my Australian artist, or is my Australian artist. Surprising purchase of 2022. My old bandmate, and this is a good opportunity to say, I used to play in a band called Lately David. The music you heard at the beginning of this video was a Lately David song called Boys Town History. All of my videos going back this year, I always try to do a new one for the new year. So this was a new one. But if you go back and watch any of my older videos, all of the music that you hear on there is Lately David's music. But my old bandmate, Danny, sent me a link to this band, and I immediately bought the album. This is a band called Second Grade, and their album, Easy Listening. This album is anything but easy listening. It's a power pop punk album. And it's a really, really cool record. The song that he sent me was Teenage Overpopulation. Just catchy guitar rock. I love power pop music. And so this album stood out to me. This is on the, what's the label here? What's the label? You got me now. It's Double down, double whammy, double whammy. I knew it was like DDW, but you can go there and order the album. Fans of Power Pop, you know, it's worth checking out. The next question was artist or band that I have their complete discography or that I've completed. Now there's several of those in my collection, but because in keeping with the theme of like trying to find somebody different, somebody new, Big Star. Almost to my detriment, I have have bought everything with Big Star's name on it. So there's been a lot of course, they only made 2 proper albums, but there's been a lot of other stuff that's come out since. With Big Star's third, which is credited to them. The album they did in Space back in the mid 2000s, that album, which is credited to Big Star News. A lot of live releases, soundtracks, different things. But Big Star is a band that pretty much, if it's got the Big Star name on it, I'm probably going to buy it. The next question is a great run of 3 albums. So 3 consecutive albums, that's a great run. And some of you probably aren't going to be surprised by this pick, because those of you who regularly watch my channel know that I'm a huge fan of Michael Nesmith, former Monkey, one of my all-time favorite artists. The run of albums that I've picked are the albums that he made with the First National Band. This was the band that he formed after the Monkees. These are the 3 albums, Red, White, and Blue, funny enough. The first one is called Magnetic South. And then the second one is called Loose Salute. And the third one is called Nevada Fighter. And these 3 albums are really sort of the beginning of what was called country rock. Nesmith shares a rare space with people like Graham Parsons, you know, along those lines, the Eagles, bands that really are kind of credited with inventing this genre of country rock. Nesmith was right there at the forefront. I could go back and watch a lot of my videos where I talk at length about Nesmith, probably more than some people care to hear, but huge Michael Nesmith fan. This is a run of 3 albums. It's a trilogy. Some people call it a trilogy. And the First National Band trilogy is what they are. There's a great run of 3 albums. The next question is, where's my list here? The next question is a soundtrack from the 80s. And I almost cheated and picked a couple things, but I just went with one. Probably one of my favorite movies, Back to the Future. Huey Lewis in the News, of course, was the big one. Power of Love was the big hit. Robert Zemeckis' film about time travel. You've probably all seen it. It's a movie I grew up with. I still want a DeLorean because of this movie. But Back to the Future, soundtrack from the 80s. The next question that I've got was someone we lost in 2022. An artist that we lost. I picked Angelo Badalamenti. I think the Omaha Introvert talked about him when she picked her 80s soundtrack. But this is the soundtrack to Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks, one of my all-time favorite shows. He composed the music for it. He worked closely, I guess most famously, with David Lynch, the director. And so this was an iconic soundtrack when it came out, I believe in 1990, sort of consecutive with the show. But Twin Peaks, one of my favorite shows from one of my favorite directors, and Angelo Badalamenti, we said goodbye to him in 2022. A disappointing purchase in 2022. Now, I didn't buy this. This was a gift, but it is an album that I got, and it was an album that I was disappointed with, and it was an album that I would have bought. So I'm going to count this. But Barn by Neil Young and Crazy Horse. I've only listened to it once. I got it for Christmas, and it just didn't do anything for me. Like, I normally, like, and especially with Crazy Horse, like, I realize a lot of Neil's songs sometimes don't go anywhere. This just kind of rambles a lot for me. And even then, I can sometimes, like, be interested in Neil's guitar playing or something along those lines. But this album just was real flat. I'll probably listen to it again, and who knows, maybe down the road it may grow on me, but nothing on this album really stuck. So it was a disappointment. New non-vinyl purchase. A non-vinyl purchase, which I'm assuming would mean like a CD or something. And I'm probably going to do a video on these soon because friends of mine have heard me rant. Again, this was a gift, but it's non-vinyl. This is the CD box set of the Abbey Road album that the Beatles put out a couple of years ago on the anniversary. Now, I have the vinyl set, and the vinyl set is pretty identical to the CD set with the exception of the Blu-ray audio, the Dolby Atmos mix. But in addition to that, the big nice book that the vinyl version does not have. Again, this is another rant. I'm not going to go into it here just because for the sake of brevity and everything. I may do a video soon where I talk about these Beatle box sets. But anyway, this is a non-vinyl recent purchase. A Grail that I've gotten. The Grail that I chose was Lee Hazelwood 20th Century Lee. I'm a huge Lee Hazelwood fan and try to grab everything. Well, Light in the Attic Records did a great reissue series on Lee's 60s albums and the bands and the stuff that he was involved with. They're now doing the Nancy Sinatra stuff, which I think Lee was probably the artist Lee was most closely associated with. But his 70s albums are very hard to find. They're very... you just don't see Lee Hazelwood records in stores, and particularly the 70s records because Lee moved to Sweden, and a lot of these were never even American released albums. 20th Century Lee, not really a one of what I would call just one of the high watermarks of Lee Hazelwood's career, but I was really stoked to add a nice clean copy of this to my collection, to my Lee Hazelwood collection. And I hope to maybe add some more over time, slowly but surely. You know, like anything like that, import releases, they're expensive, they're hard to get your hands on. But Lee Hazelwood, 20th Century Lee was a Grail that I got. A space theme album or song is the next question. I Am the Cosmos by Chris Bell. Chris Bell, this is his only album. Chris Bell was in Big Star, in the early incarnation of Big Star, but the song I Am the Cosmos is an absolute tearjerker, and it's just, I can't sing enough about it, but Chris Bell, I Am the Cosmos is my space themed. VCLT, I really, I'm not, this isn't like a plea for people to send me stuff. I'm not going to deny people that send me stuff. I don't get a lot of VCLT. I just don't. And so this was kind of hard, but I did get some VCLT this past year from Jonathan, the Cheap and Cheerful record collector. He kindly reached out to me. I've been, in the last couple of years, have been looking for sort of obscure Christian rock albums from Christian rock artists, and he found some at a local thrift, and he was kind enough to send them to me. But this is one of them. Keith Green, For Him Who Has Ears to Hear. I've talked about this album before. This is just a fantastic album by any standards. Keith was an amazing artist, and so, but these records really just were so under the radar. And so when I find these albums in the wild, I tend to grab them. They tend to be cheap and easy to get your hands on, or not easy to get your hands on if you can find them, but they tend to be cheap. But there's some really good music. But this album is exceptionally good. For Him Who Has Ears to Hear by Keith Green. So thanks for that, Jonathan. I appreciate it. And finally, the last question for the Vinyl Tag 2023 is an album released in 1973, since it's a 50-year anniversary of 1973. So this album turns 50 this year. Quadrophenia by The Who. This was a double album, sort of a concept rock opera deal from Pete Townsend. The cool thing about this record is that it's all about the personalities of each band member. Pete wrote different sort of themes to play into each band member's personality. And this, to me, is sort of Pete Townsend's greatest moment with The Who, because this album, unlike all other Who albums, this album is all Pete Townsend. Produced it, he wrote it, everything was put together. Is it the best Who album? I don't know, probably not. But I love this album because I love Pete Townsend, I love The Who, and this album tells a great story. But Quadrophenia turns 50 this year. Happy birthday, Quadrophenia. It's an album that is just, I think, has gotten better with age. So there you go, the Vinyl Tag 2023. Was really glad to do this video. Again, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, if this is your first time tuning in, please do so. I love to have you on board. And I have other people that show up. If you watched my intro, you probably saw that. And so I love doing this stuff and hope to continue to do this for a long time to come. Really glad to be a part of the VC. Thanks, Rob, for the Vinyl Tag and kicking this thing off. I hope everyone has a fantastic 2023. That's a tongue twister. Hey, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.